And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, and I am so delighted to be hosting the incredible Emmy Award-winning, Murrow-winning, doer of all things, winner of all the awards, incredible Tamron Hall, here to tell us about her brand new red hot book, As the Wicked Watch, out tomorrow, but giving us the pre-scoop tonight. Tamron, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about this book.
Sara, thank you. You have me. I like my cheeks. I can't smile any broader than I am right now. Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you for being here on a nerve-wracking night in my life. It is 7 p.m. Eastern time, and I have butterflies. I'm relieved. I can't believe that this book is going to be in bookstores around the country, women-owned bookstores, and it's surreal. It's surreal. This started truly, at least the words started coming out of my head into my phone voice dictation during the pandemic. And I was looking for ways to be creative and share my voice and things inside of me in a different way than I have been for many years. But truly, this started in 1997 when I covered 2 cases that I just couldn't shake.
And you had shared that those 2 cases, one was a white child in Texas. You shared this Saturday on the National Black Book Festival, which is an amazing event. I'll link to it in the comments as well. You shared that the 2 cases, one was about a white child in Texas, and one was a black child in Chicago. Now, this book, of course, takes place in Chicago, the story of Maisie James. And I want to get into every detail because Tamron, there's a lot to talk about in here. There is a lot to talk about in here, and I am so excited to get into every detail. First, I just want to welcome everyone who's watching with us. We're beaming a lot of places right now. So welcome everyone who's watching with us on YouTube, watching with us on Facebook, watching on my channels, watching on Murder by the Books channels, watching in my private Facebook for mystery and thriller fans. Wherever you're watching from, you're in the right place. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, if you've been here before, you know the drill. And if you're new, here's the drill. Every Monday, I give you my hand-picked featured author, and you get to ask them anything. So ask Tamron about her writing process. Ask her about her character. Ask her about this Jordan Manning. How she happened, where she's going. We got a lot to talk about. Get the questions going in the comments, and I will get them right over to them. Oh, hello, Gian Darty. I was just speaking your name in the green room. She said, hi, Tamron. I'm so excited to hear you speak again. I just heard you and received a copy of your book at my friend Tiffany's color conference ad color. And of course, Gian is the way that I first met Tamron. So incredible, Gian. Thank you so much for being here. So little known fact about Gian. She is the owner of an incredible award-winning Black-owned skincare company. And the woman also reads 2 to 3 mysteries a week. She is the biggest mystery fan ever. So, Gian, you're going to love this book. Thank you so much for being here with us. And thank you for connecting me to Tamron back in the day. Leslie is saying hello from Canada. That's her Canadian hello. Melissa Watson joining us from Australia saying hi, Sara and Tamron. My goodness, Heather Gudenkoff, award-winning author, New York Times bestselling mystery author, has just entered the chat. Heather, welcome. Her book, Overnight Guest, is coming out in January. Heather, thank you so much. Tell us what you love about Tamron's books. Mame saying she can't wait to read. Christina Powers, Bookstagrammer extraordinaire, saying such a fan of yours, Tamron. Shay with the hobby saying, yes, so glad I could catch this live. Shay, welcome. Great to have you. All right, y'all, I know you got a lot of questions, so get them going. Oh, my goodness. Tracy Clark has entered the chat. Tracy, welcome. So good to have you. I hosted Tracy when her book Runner came out, also based in Chicago. Tracy, so wonderful to have you back. Award-winning mystery author with us tonight.
Amazing.
Welcome. Heather Gudenkoff, a New York Times bestselling author, would like to know, what is your favorite part of the writing process, Tamron? What is the most challenging? Tamron, give us a scoop.
So I think the favorite part for me ties into the fact that this story was inspired by 2 stories that I covered that really haunted me. The first case in Texas, when the call came in that the victim had been found, I, according to the cameraman I was working with, blacked out. Like I only remember opening the car door to say I needed fresh air. And I did not recall, as he said, just wandering straight down the road. The death of that child impacted me in such a heavy way, as did the case in Chicago, that this writing process really was delayed therapy, right? As a journalist, we are told to, be straight down the line. We're expected to report from a crime scene, as Jordan does, with a body a few inches away in some cases, and then go home and cook your dinner or watch Seinfeld or whatever, was your thing at that time. But in reality, that's not what happens. And it certainly didn't happen with me. So the writing process really was like therapy. I was in so many ways talking to Jordan, hoping and rooting for her to follow these leads, to follow this case. So the writing process wasn't challenging for me in that way. Now, learning this process, this is very different than what I do every day. I wrote scripts for the news. So it's a minute and 15 seconds. You tell the story, you tell the who, what, when, why, how, right? That's how I'm trained as a journalist. Now I've got to add color and texture to this. And that was new and challenging because I'm retraining my brain at 500 years old, right? I've been reporting for a very long time. So now I am retraining what I see as writing, what I see as storytelling, to enter a field and a world unknown to me. And I'm fans of Heather and so many of the authors here present right now. And so I decided I can't imitate, right? I was not going to imitate what a seasoned novelist could do. I could, though, write this from my heart and try to pull this character together. So it's an unusual process because I recognize I'm coming at this in an unusual and different way as a journalist for 30 years, as someone who's written short scripts, and also as a person who is trying to, for lack of a better word, exercise out these demons that were weighing down my heart as a journalist after covering those two stories.
Oh my gosh. Well, Tamron, I have so much that I want to ask you about.
Yes, please. Okay. I'll shorten my answers, I promise.
Here's my little notebook of questions, which I have been writing down, and thoughts, which I've been writing down as I have also been reading. So I have the two going. Boy. But it's so funny you should say that you came at it with heart, because I actually wrote that down. This story has so much heart. And it's exactly what I love about you as a person and you as a showrunner, which is that you are raw, you are real, you are authentic, and you are fully present at all times. And I think that rawness and that realness allows us to connect with both you on the screen and with Jordan Manning on the page. And I love that. I love that. Okay, I see tons of questions are pouring in. Leach would like to know, did you have your title before you wrote your book or after? Okay, tell us the story of the title, Tamron.
So about midway through, well, more than halfway through, my publisher started saying, well, what title do you like here? What do you see? And I had someone, because the character talks about her shoes a lot, someone said stiletto. And I'm like, stiletto? That doesn't make any sense. And I remembered watching Netflix, and it was The Son of Sam, the new Netflix about the, and I left there so deeply disturbed and wondering why I'd watched it, because it just left this really raw and uneasy feeling within me. And then I started to think about, in TV, The Wicked Watch, and people who carry out crimes at some point watched TV, maybe the news. And I recall being at the scene of a murder-suicide. Eventually it was a murder that turned to murder-suicide in Texas. The man was barricaded inside the home. And I was out in the middle of this field, small town. And the sheriff said, you have to stop reporting. You have to move back. We think he's watching. and he was watching the coverage, and they were getting ready to storm the home, and they were worried that he was watching the helicopters above
Oh my God.
and behaving, in a dangerous way to the law enforcement. And that was a visual in my head. And with this character, and that there may be a serial killer involved here, was that person returning to the crime scene? Are they fans of Jordan, right?
Mhm.
Are they watching? And the title As the Wicked Watch just rolled into my head one night. And it really truly was a combination of all of those things I just detailed and a few other moments in my life where I've wondered, who is watching? And do we all believe that we are good until we are wicked?
Ooh. Well, it's interesting because on page 246, you actually say you let us into that wicked watching moment. You use the phrase, and I was so excited when I read it because I thought, there it is. There's the title. There's another clue that she's planting for us in this breadcrumb trail of solving this case. And it's really what's fascinating. I mean, there's so much to talk about with this book, but it is. First of all, it's an incredibly inside and insightful view of the life of a TV reporter. So for those of us who don't have that life, which is all of us probably except for you, we get to see what the day-to-day is like. I didn't know there was so much waiting around.
Well, there is, and that's the thing that people, by the time you see the reporter in the evening newscast or morning newscast, there's been a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of hurry up and wait, particularly when you're covering a crime, because you are waiting for the news conference, right? You are at the vigil that starts late as they assemble the people who want to speak there. And that's been an experience of mine many, many times. I'm sure for people who are here with us now, you've seen that live report where the microphones are all covering the podium and every news flag as they wait for the official to come. And so for me, that 1 minute of news is the exhilarating ending to a long day. And much of that day really is waiting for someone to call back, waiting to hear the latest information from the police, or waiting in some cases in front of someone's home for someone to arrive who you've been told is connected to the victim or the suspect. So there's a lot of hurry up and wait, as they say, involved in reporting.
I didn't know that. I love that. And I love getting that inside view of being able to walk in Jordan Manning's shoes and seeing her, her what's weighing on her personally, trying to find her way, getting pressure to get married. We all feel that, trying to figure things out with Thomas and her love interest she's creeping with at 1 a.m. most nights, trying to build her career. And I loved so much of how you shared that. You said, you address it like, so for instance, one of the many scenes I love is when Jordan gets home after a very long day of being at that vigil, which you just referenced, of chasing those clues of hurry up and wait, of calling the police superintendent, calling, the community leader, sitting with the bereaved mom. I mean, dealing with, first of all, just going as hard and fast as she can, getting the story together on deadline, but also dealing with this bereaved mom. And then she goes home and she goes from her work self to her home self. And you describe that as a ritualistic physical dismantling, which I loved that. So she takes off her suit, she takes off those stilettos, and I love that. And she just wants to get in a hot shower and get all that grief and all that heaviness off of her. She describes it as a process of shape shifting. So I wanted to talk about that, these different selves that we have, our work self and our home self, and the selves that we have to be, and also that process of that shape shifting. How do you get it off of you? I mean, it would be so heartbreaking.
That's exactly what Jordan is navigating. How do you get it off of you? And do you really want to completely shift out of who you've been all day long? And I think for Jordan, particularly being a young reporter, youngish, right? She's not a newbie. she's youngish. She's at that pivotal, critical age range where you are wondering, am I going to make it, right? The dream that I have, will it really come true? Am I on the right track? So she's there, but she's also mindful of the weight of what she does, because her first choice was not journalism. This was not the career she thought she was going to have. Unlike me, I was pretty certain that I was going to be a reporter. I didn't know it was going to turn into the life that I have now. I at one point thought I'd be a war correspondent. And all of these different things. I remember I applied for the Wall Street Journal. I don't know what job, and I didn't get it, but whatever. I was like 18. I just wanted my foot in the door. I think it was basically delivering the Wall Street Journal, but I thought it was an entry-level position. And so with Jordan, now she is conflicted about this world of journalism, doesn't really have the purpose she believes or hopes that it does. And when she goes home every day, that description of the dismantling is really very close to me. Although this character is inspired by my life, much of what she does is what I fantasize I've said or done in situations, and what I witnessed other people, other reporters do. And with that particular scene, that was deeply personal, because I covered, crime stories for Deadline Crime for 6 years and 6 seasons. And with that show, I had a ritual prior to interviewing the family. I would take the folder and I would meditate over that person. I pray that, whatever story that I did would not bring further grief to the family. I did a whole ceremony, for lack of a better description. Wherever I was, I could be, in a small town in Oklahoma, or out in the desert, Arizona, in like this town, I can't even remember the name of it, was so small. And I really took a moment to honor that person's life and recognize that while this was a TV show that I was doing, someone did not go home to their family members. Someone would not be at the next holiday. And so that was my ritual in how I approached those shows. And with Jordan, this ritual of trying to detach from what she's seen was a critical component of understanding, because I wanted the reader to see that no one with her sensitivity, with her heart, could go home and just suddenly, as I said, shift to Seinfeld or Friends or whatever the hot show was at that time, and leave it all behind. She's not capable of that. And that's a part of her drive to find answers.
Yes, exactly. And her degree in forensics shows that part of her. But I love the scene. I loved that scene because it actually was so powerful. I read it twice. How she steps into the shower and she washes her makeup off, and then she describes seeing this person in the mirror that's a chameleon that people wouldn't recognize, and she has this moment of, who is my face without makeup, and who is the team and the news. And you talk a lot about, expectations of women, how they dress, how that we don't age, how we dress. If a guy can wear the same suit every day on the news, but if a woman wears the same dress or the same scarf, everyone's got something to say about it. So there's so much here. And I also see Jordan wrestling with, how do you cover this heartbreak, this bereavement, the fact that this woman has lost her daughter. She's been murdered and violated and in the most inhumane way. How do you hold that space for her, tell the story on Deadline, and not let it just destroy you or not become hardened? How do you do that as a storyteller? How do you hold that space, stay open but not destroyed?
I think there are days that perhaps it did not, I wouldn't say destroy, but certainly chipped away at me. And there was a time, particularly with Deadline Crime, that I said, I just can't do this anymore. I'd done a story on a young woman who was lured into a chat room where an individual pretended to be a supportive voice and ultimately convinced her to take her own life. And and had done so allegedly to multiple people around the world. There were these dark chat rooms, and he pretended was a man, a father, in fact, a suburban dad, who convinced everyone that he was a nurse and a woman, and that he, could help them in their lives in this way if they so desired. But he turned into a person who coerced them to do so. And the point of this story is that I went into a room to interview her father, and the grief that I saw was so similar to at my sister's wake when my father said, "I can't stay any longer, let's go." And he left, and we left a room full of people who were there to support him, and my dad just simply could not bear to stay there another minute. And when I interviewed the victim's father, I didn't even get a word out, Sarah, before he just huge tears just streamed down his face. And I thought about him all night, all week. And every time I closed my eyes, I would see his face. And I thought for a moment, I simply can't do this. This is not for me. I can't. And then for some reason that season, People magazine wanted to do a piece on my new season of Deadline Crime. And I was able to highlight that case. And then I ended up having a larger conversation on the internet and the danger, some of the things we're talking about right now. So I found purpose. And that's how I started to deal with some of these stories. I did a case where a young woman, a real estate agent, married, left her children, and her husband became addicted to meth before our wide conversation about opioid addiction, all that, lost her life. And that opened the door for me to have more understanding of when I later did a show on substance abuse and the addictions that we were seeing around the country in West Virginia, Texas to New York, and this issue affecting women in particular who become addicted to painkillers. It gave me more insight. So I found a way to resolve some of the pain and and the questions of why was I there and why am I doing this show, because it became useful information to help others later on.
Oh, Tamron, I love that. I love that. And you're getting so many hearts up and sad faces on Facebook. Thanks for all your emotions, everybody. I see you and I appreciate you. Thank you. Thanks for all the hearts. And, Tamron, there's just, it's an amazing act of service that you share this story and honor these two victims who have stayed with you all these many years and now live on in these pages. I really love that. And even the dedication in the beginning that you hold space for them. Oh, it's just so beautiful. I want to get back to the comments. Alicia is saying hello from Texas. Yes, we are thrilled. Tamron's returning to her Texas roots tonight, y'all, to partner with us here. Samya Dave, Dr. Samya Dave, best-selling author who was just featured on the Let's Get Lit on Tam Time, saying this is so amazing how you embrace that challenge. She is, of course, an amazing author in her own right and a doctor of psychiatry. Samya, so great to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Deb Rocha saying howdy from Pasadena. Deb, thanks for being here. Love that. Thank you guys all for being here. I'm just making sure I don't miss any of your amazing comments. I want to let you guys know. So as you may know, there's a lot of supply chain issues with books right now. Wow. But we have signed copies. We have autographed copies, y'all. So you can grab it. I'm going to put the link right here in the comments. So you can grab an autographed copy tonight and it will ship to you tomorrow when the book comes out. Now, I have already bought several for myself, but I'm saving the rest for you. Samya is saying this is such an inspiring conversation. Dr. Dave, thank you so much for joining us for our high praise. Gian saying you teased a second book at Ad Color. Can you share if we can expect that, and would that be a completely new book, or is this going to be number 2 in Jordan Manning's series?
It's number 2. Thank you so much for asking. In the series, so I'm 4 chapters in, and I thought, let me slow down so that I can hear some of the feedback regarding this first case. How I see this playing out really is related to the desire for Jordan to grow and for people to see her growth, both personally. I mean, I want you all to root for her to have a baby just like you rooted for me. And I want us to get to know this new type of protagonist, this new
Mm.
voice in this crime space. I grew up, as you've heard me say, Sarah, a million times by now, with Nancy Drew's series Under My Bed, right? And
Yes, me
I
too.
see I see her being that type of character, where we grow with her, where we watch the cases impact her in a very different way. In this series, in this particular book, the victim is a Black woman, right?
Yes.
Well, this I'll reveal that the second book involves the disappearance of a mom who happens to be white
Mhm.
and lives a very different life than Jordan. And
Ooh.
Jordan is faced with the question of, do I connect with her in the same way that I connected with Macy? And is there a through line um, between all three of them, Macy and our new story? And I think that there is, and I think she challenges us to do something that I often worry about. And
Mm.
it's, again, this conversation we're having right now. Do we only connect to people who look like us, who
Mm.
look like they could be our daughters or our sons or our sisters, our brothers? And we're having that conversation nationally as it relates to missing persons and who gets to decide which story rises to the concern level of being the national news headline. And so here we
Mm.
have Jordan now looking into a case and talking with a family very different from her own. And
Mhm.
that's what I faced as a reporter each and every day. I can tell you that I cried as much, for victims who look like they could be my own as I did for people that were so different than me that I couldn't even imagine what their life was like. I wasn't faced with that dilemma in that same way. And I think it's because I grew up in Texas. I grew up in my husband happens to be Jewish. My brother and his children multiracial. So I grew up in this big, wide family scope of different economic backgrounds and all of these things. So I never faced that challenge, but I
Mhm.
have been curious about how Jordan will handle this, especially after being so entrenched in Macy. And being critical of some of her colleagues for not caring from her perspective about Macy because it was a missing Black girl. Will she be a hypocrite? Will she suffer the same weight of really only being attached because Macy looks like her or her family members?
Ooh. Well, that will be really interesting because as I was reading your book, the Gabby Petito case was happening. And I could not help but wonder if Gabby hadn't been white and blonde and, fit and slender and cute and pretty and able-bodied and heterosexual and all of these things and young, would she have gotten that same attention? And I think the answer that I reached and a lot of people reached was no. She was, this idea, for some reason, this young white, all of the things I just named, she checked all of those boxes and everyone, the news got really obsessed with covering the disappearance of this, young woman. Now, something that you mentioned yesterday or Saturday at the National Black Book Festival, which I thought was fascinating, is you said that you think that one of the reasons that may be is because newsrooms are predominantly led by white men, which I hadn't known, but which makes sense. We're living in a white man's world. But you said, and so I thought, oh, that's so interesting. And then you went on to say that perhaps this contributes to it because people identify with who looks like them. Let's talk a little bit more about that.
I think initially, like any other industry, this industry felt it had to reflect who was a valuable audience, right?
Mm.
And the valuable audience were the white suburban family, right? So,
Mhm.
when you look at every evening newscast back in the day was anchored by a white male. Every
Mm.
local newscast, white male. So they became the voice of credibility, right? And they're in the newsrooms and
Mm.
they're deciding what they believe their neighbors want to watch, right? Well, my neighbor would care about this. And so as a result, these trends started, right?
Mm.
And I think now there, I don't believe for a second there are people in the newsroom saying we're going to lead with the attractive white girl.
No.
Not at all. But these behaviors get passed down, and I think people feel helpless in correcting them, and in some ways helpless in addressing them honestly to ask why.
Mm.
And in the midst of all of this, Sarah, what pains me is that you have Gabby's parents who now have to feel guilty because their daughter is the lead, right? If my son were missing, I would want him to be the lead, the second story, the third, fourth. I don't
Of
care.
course.
And any parent would, right? So their desire to spread the word is not the offense or the sin, right?
Mm-mm.
And now they've got to say, no, we want in the midst of their grieving, they are now put in a position to answer these questions, or they are now seeing the people challenge or criticize the media, and they feel compelled to say, we don't want this either. We want everyone. So that's heartbreaking. And then you have Jelani Day, for example, who's gone missing. His mother is desperately pleading for answers that go unheard. And through the Gabby Petito case, she finally gets attention and gets an answer about her son, the tragic news that he's been in the morgue
Yeah.
unidentified, which is horrendous and horrifying.
Yeah.
So these parents become collateral damage because we can't get it right.
Mm.
And we continue to pass down bad reporting the blueprints, right? Because it's a blueprint, right? It's a blueprint. What do? We follow this type of woman. And by the way, if she were, to your point, not necessarily fit, not if maybe she was LGBTQ plus, there are many things that we can say would have contributed to her not being the lead. And it is heartbreaking that this poor girl was murdered, and now this is a part of her storyline because we couldn't get it right when people did it with Amber Hollowell, when people did it, with Elizabeth Smart. These conversations happen. People did say, wait a minute, would this be the lead if they were not as beautiful as they are, or blonde or white? And we kept kicking the can, and it's still here.
Exactly. And I think we need to keep kicking the can because, as Jordan says, Maisie is the every girl.
Yeah.
She's just not the girl next door to some people, but she is a girl next door. She's our girl next door. And if you live in the city, which I do and many people do, and even if you don't, she very may well be the actual girl next door. But even if she isn't, how can we create the compassion and the empathy to have that same concern for her whereabouts, for her safety, for her safe return, hopefully, or justice in her sake? If not, how can we cultivate that same, even if she does not look like us, our daughter, our sister, or the actual girl next door to us? How can we have that same compassion for her as a human, as a member of this earth?
And that's why Jordan ends up having this confrontation about this very issue. She recognizes that if we don't confront this head on, if we don't speak it out loud in the newsroom, how do we fix it? And again, I wrote this a year and a half ago, and I remember when I got a call from someone on my team saying, did you see Joyanne Reed, who's a dear friend of mine, and she's talking about the missing white woman syndrome, which was coined by the great Gwen Eiffel, about this notion that the media gets attached to a certain type. Tamron, it's your book. I couldn't, and again, I felt such sadness in it. Here's my book, it's relevant, and why? And it broke my heart. And I don't know. I don't want to cry because I get emotional talking about it, but it breaks my heart that here this debate was happening while she was still missing, but it's a necessary conversation.
Well, I think one of the powerful ways that we can do, in which you are contributing in this way, is to allow people to connect with people in this very human way. And when this is what I love about reading, right? You get to walk in the shoes of another person. You get to see life through their eyes. You get to have an experience that may be very different from your experience. And that's a way to create that web of humanity, that connection. And from that connection comes empathy and understanding and support. So you're doing it.
Yeah, and that's what I think this character, as I said, she is looking for in this industry where, of course, I think most reporters lead with heart, particularly investigative reporters, whether it's Better Call Roseanne or whatever, here in New York, everywhere you live, there's a moniker of the I-team or, the consumer watch. People don't know. I used to do a consumer report called The Bottom Line, we're getting to the bottom of things. And so I do believe the vast majority of investigative reporters, if they were in control, we would not see this disproportionate, coverage battle happening. Because I think the ones that I've spoken with, whether they're colleagues at Investigation Discovery or any of the stations that I've worked with, remain some of the best reporters in the business. Because they are the most in contact with humanity.
Ooh, oh, I love that. Mame is saying, wow, great discussion.
And I love your name, Mame.
Yeah, me too. I feel like she should be, I hope she goes by Auntie Mame.
I know.
I would make everyone address me as Auntie.
I love it.
Melissa's saying this sounds very interesting. Maybe if our humanity wins out, we will relate to another woman just because she's another human being that we authentically can relate to. Yes, Melissa, agreed.
I love that. And Melissa, that's a part of, the discussion in the novel about what is the experience of a Black female reporter. I'll tell you, and I don't know if I've ever shared this even publicly.
Give us
early on in the business at the network national level, I remember a white female executive saying, well, you're not going to probably do well in morning television because the audience won't be able to relate to you. And it was the first time in my life. Now, I'd gone from Chicago, one of the highest Q ratings, viewers, great. And Q rating is if the viewers like you or not. And so they're like, oh, the viewers love you. This is great. And Tamron is our girl, even though she's from Texas, we'll embrace her in the city of big shoulders, And I'd never heard someone say that about me. And I thought, oh, you're talking about because I dress a little jazzy sometimes? No. Because of my short, Peter Pan haircut? No. And she never got to where she was going because I very clearly identified what it was. And she felt white women couldn't relate.
Wow.
And this was at an executive level at a national network. And at one point I felt defeated because here I am in New York City and an executive is saying this to me.
Wow.
But then that part of my personality that clearly indicates I've gone to Missouri where I'm from the show me state. I'm going to show her, and I'm not even from the show me state. It's like, I'm going to show her what it means to relate. And I said to her, my heart is what people will relate to. And you couldn't be more wrong. And basically I said, I'll prove you're wrong. And as a result, I'm very fortunate to have, I tell people, I can walk down in Harlem and I'll see someone and they go get them, sister, do your thing, Tamron Hall. And I've been in rural Arkansas out of nowhere. Tamra, is that you? And the same love, that same support from two different humans whose journeys could not be further apart. But the connective tissue was something they believed they received from me as the person in their TV screen. And that is what gives me purpose. And that is the intention of the TAM fam. And that's really what Jordan will face as well. Like, who is supporting you when network executives tell you, well, it's only the Black people who are rooting for you, or you're
Mm.
only there because of the Black audience. And then suddenly she finds herself being approached by all kinds of people who want
Mm.
her to hear their story, to simply hear them. And that's what we will see.
Oh, Tamron, I'm getting goosebumps. And
Mhm.
I've said that from the beginning. I mean, from the moment that I met you at the wing, and thank you to Gian Doherty for bringing me in there. It is always wonderful to be brought into the room by another woman. It is your realness and your ability to be so deeply present and so real and so raw that allows people to connect to you. And I can't believe that woman said to you she could not be more wrong, because your Tam fam, which is all of us, adores you, and everybody loves Tam time. And people connect to you because you have such a beautiful, beautiful heart.
Thank you.
And you're so real. Mame would like to know, what books are you reading and loving?
Wow.
Yeah,
So
Tamara, what are
right
you
now,
reading?
Llama Llama Red Pajama is the number one hit. What is it? Good Night Moon. Listen, that's the best. That is the best. I have
That's my
been
favorite.
between my own book and reading children's stories. I have been in a haze. I just
And writing a children's book, I
Yeah,
hear.
writing children's book. I just finished The Black Witch of Salem. I Am
Ooh.
Tituba, which is fascinating book. It's an older book. It's like 25 years old, but I just stumbled upon it again, and I'm so
Mm.
intrigued by this conversation over Black girl magic. And I keep saying she was the original Black girl magic, and it's the story of a African slave who was accused of being a witch in Salem. It's a true story, based on a true story, but it's a fictionalized account of what happened to her. But the case is based on actual documents from the Salem witch hunt, and it's a fantastic book.
Wow, The Black Witch of Salem.
Black Witch of
I hadn't
Salem.
heard it. That is fascinating. I had not heard that book, and I will be
Yeah.
checking it out shortly, because that is I
And
love.
the author is elusive. I think she's in her late 80s now. She won a high award in France for it, but the book has not gotten a lot of attention, but it is fascinating. And I think it might, I'm giving away my ideas, it might be make a good movie.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. Well, I'm gonna put it in the comments, because while you're at Murder by the Book, buying your autographed copy of Tamron's book, add The Black Witch of Salem to your pile too, because that is going to be good. And I think that something that's really interesting. I thank you for the great question, Mame. Something I think is really interesting is, Tamron, you've shared that when you first pitched the story, you got the pushback that this was not realistic.
Yeah.
That Jordan Manning having a degree in forensics and being a television reporter just wasn't realistic enough. Tell our listeners here today, our viewers, our friends, our TAM fam members, tell us that story.
So, I think that it's when we think of what men can do, it's limitless, right?
Mm.
And they can have 99 degrees and still go on to be superheroes and all of this. And we see it even in our Marvel Comics world and all of that. Look how long it took for women to become the hero. Even then, to Disney's credit, my partners, suddenly when Brave came around, everyone's like, oh, Brave doesn't need a prince to save her. Meanwhile, all of the stories up until then was the damsel in distress. And so there was this notion that she could not be a forensic scientist, and there's no way this could happen. And I said, listen, we believe that a guy from Krypton works at the Daily Planet and goes in a booth and becomes Superman. Then he goes back and he writes a story. Like, we can believe that. Or we can believe, because I'm a TV junkie and I'm 51, Heart to Heart. This gorgeous billionaire couple can then go on their vacation yacht from Nice or the south of France and then solve mysteries. Or Quincy, he's a coroner, but on his side job, he finds out how to solve these crimes. We're able to believe all of that, but we can't believe this Black female reporter could have these two backgrounds that somehow merge together. And so I was even more determined at that point. I wanted to make her a rocket scientist after that, just to push the boundaries of this notion of what we can't create. Of course we can. Of course we can.
I love that. And you also shared that Jordan, that publishers had said they hadn't seen a character like this on the
Which I
page.
was so surprised. Again, you know, in the process of wanting to create this character and bring her to life, truly I felt as wide-eyed and unsuspecting of the future as my 2-year-old son. You know, my 2-year-old son walks down the stairs every day as if this is a new house. He's like, I didn't know. I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that. Are you kidding me? And so I, in so many ways, felt like this 2-year-old toddler, you know, making my way through this side of the literary world. And that I've been a host for 25 years. I've had just about every author, every type of book, every genre come on, whether it's this talk show that I have or when I was the Today Show. And so I've always been the person doing Sarah's job, holding up the book and interviewing the author. So I knew that lane. I did not know, and still I'm stumbling through or toddling through this side of being an author. I was in the room thinking, okay, I'll tell you about my book. Here, let me get my little piece of paper. I'll tell you. And over, I kept hearing, whoa, we don't know of a character like this. We don't know of a protagonist like this in any of the books. And I thought, what? Are you serious? Okay. Well, let me keep going. And I just kept going with who she is and where she comes from and all of her stories. And it's mind blowing for me. And to have that level of interest and also know that I was bringing a character who would grow with readers, who you will offer your feedback and I will develop her more. But the essence of her spirit and heart in covering these crimes and wanting justice, the core is there. But who she'll become and who I will become as an author who continues is a work in progress. So my toddler legs will get stronger and I'll walk down the stairs and I'll say, oh, that picture's been there. I've seen that before. And then, you know, so that's been the experience.
Oh, I love that. I love that, Tamron. Donna is saying, you are so funny. She loved Heart to Heart.
There you are. There you are. I see you.
So what was your favorite book when you were a little girl, Tamron?
Oh, wow. So I don't know what this says about me, but the first book that comes to mind, and I wasn't a little girl, but it was Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I don't know. It's like that book was so life-changing for me, and I'm pretty sure I wasn't supposed to be reading it, or that my mom, who is pretty conservative, would have been like, what are you reading about this? But I remember just reading this book and feeling so independent of the books that I'd been told to read in school, of the books that were brought to me by my mother to read. It was my choice, my book, and it was this moment for me. And it's kind of crazy. And I was preteen, I was tween when I got it. And I don't even know where I got it from. I think one of my friends told me about it.
Oh my gosh, so many of us Are You There? It's such a classic. It's good to know that you love that too. Thank you so much for sharing. I can picture baby Tamron reading that book and relating. Christine is saying she loves the Tam Fam. You support my afternoons while I work from home. Leach is saying you are such a genuine person, Tamron. God bless you.
Thank you.
Oh, these are such wonderful comments, y'all. And as you know, when a book, or maybe people don't know, so let me share. When a book comes out, how it does determines how that book, determines if there's going to be next books, determine everything. We have power, y'all. We have power. And what I have learned is that voting is not something that happens every 4 years or 2 years in your local election, although you better get out and vote. But every time you swipe a credit card, you are voting. You are voting for the books you want to see on the shelves. You are voting for the stores you want to see survive. You are voting for the authors whose books you want to see on that shelf. Every time you make a purchase, you are voting for the world you want to live in. You are voting for the stores. You're voting for the authors. You're voting for the books. So let's vote, y'all. Let's vote. I'm putting the link to pre-order in the
You're
comments.
the best campaign manager ever. Get rid of all the rest of them. This is it.
Oh my God. I did PR for 14 years, Tamron. You can take the girl out of the corporate world, but you can't take the corporate out of the girl. And I'm putting my money where my mouth is. So I am going to be buying y'all books. So after this, Tamron's going to pick 5 winners, and I'm going to buy y'all books. Because you know what? I'm voting for the world I want to see. I'm voting for the books I want to see. I'm voting for the authors I want to see. So keep commenting, and then Tamron's going to pull 5 winners after this, and I will DM you after the show. So keep commenting, everybody.
Oh my God.
By the comments. That's how we're going to do this. Donna is urging everyone to give reviews. Absolutely, Donna. Gian Darty saying that she is. Sara DiVello is a major supporter of women. Thank you so much, Gian.
You are. I mean, it's mind-blowing that, and that's the thing. Listen, of course, I want the book in hands, and of course I want this book to do well, but just this hour with you and this moment with you, it's a reward I would not have gotten had I not stepped my toe into this world, right? Yes. And so we expect the success to come on, being on a bestseller list or a great review, but this moment truly contributes something greater to my life. And it's reminding me of what support looks like. Women supporting women, not forgetting about small bookstores in this world that shifts us to the big and the grand and all of these things that if I had just left Jordan inside me and not brought this character out, my life would have been missing a moment like this. So she's brought me so much already. Having the opportunity to talk about news coverage as it relates to Black and brown victims and white, and trying to be thoughtful and deliberate about my responses. But being here with you, I mean, it's a win.
Oh, well, it is a huge win. And yeah, it was crazy because I was reading this book, I was watching the Gabby Petito case go down, and then on my birthday, actually on August 6th, a young Black woman was murdered in my neighborhood, one street over from me. And I was just posting about this week. It has been 2 months and 20 days tomorrow, and I have not seen anything on the news. I have not seen any updates, and I know because I'm following the case very closely that they have not found the suspect. And so I'm rabble rousing. I'm out there making good trouble, as John Lewis says, because this is such a fascinating book, you guys. I am loving this book. This book has so much heart, and I don't say that lightly. I'm a truth speaker, and I keep it real. This book has heart, and this book makes you think about the cases that are covered and the cases that aren't. It makes you examine your own biases, your own privileges, your own blind spots. There's one of my favorite scenes is another one. Donna saying, as another author, I am in tears. I love that, Donna. Thank you. But there's a moment where Jordan's in her news van with her cameraman, Scott, and they're in a different section of town than Scott's used to driving in. And Tamron says, hey, they can't find parking. We've all been there, right?
Jordan says,
I'm sorry. So Jordan says, I can't find parking. Tamron wrote, Jordan says, I can't find parking. And so they're circling. And so Jordan says, if you can't find parking, wait in the car, wait in the van, I'll go in, then you come in. And Scott says, what do you think those 3 guys are doing standing on the corner? And Jordan, as they loop around again, she says, Scott, those 3 guys are waiting for the bus. Right. And Scott's so embarrassed. And Jordan has this moment where she's like, should I teach this man?
Right. Is it my responsibility? Right.
Is it my responsibility to show this man that he is making an assumption about 3 presumably young men of color standing on a street corner in a dodgier section of town that maybe Scott's used to driving in? Yeah. And it is just such a powerful, painful, poignant moment, because it makes you start to question and think about, what assumptions am I making, and what are my blind spots? Amanda Light, welcome to the conversation.
Hi, Amanda.
Bookstagram influencer there, Instagram influencer there. Love that. Leisha's saying she loves your cover. I love this cover too. This is beautiful. Did you get input into it, Tamron?
Yes, I did. I wanted there to be this smoky, when you see Jordan there, I did the original version of her was way curvier, and I was like, listen, I don't have back like that. I wish I did. But no, I wanted it to have this mysterious, textured, smoky look. As I said, I lived in Chicago for 10 years, and this scene, although most of the time the leaves aren't this green because it's always cold and they're on the ground, but I wanted this smoky view, and I wanted it to look like we were watching her, going back to As the Wicked Watch. So we are watching her in this scene. And I loved just the viewpoint of it all, and where is she going, and what is she looking at? So we're watching her watch something. And so that's what I enjoyed about it. But yes, I have a phenomenal team. William Morrow, HarperCollins, my WME team. I have to say, when I first started the meetings, I said, listen, I know what I know. I know TV. I know I have a story in me. I'm not sure how to get it out. And they all held my little toddler hand through this process. And it was truly a fortunate set of circumstances for me to end up with such an understanding team of where I was creatively and what I wanted to accomplish.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I'm scrolling back here. Gian says she has a question. I'm just going to pop. Oh, I'm going to pop it. She says, I have a question for Tamron. As someone trying to make an impact in the world and build my brand, the climb can really wear you down. Tamron, you are always so filled with grace. It's so true and so centered. How do you maintain that attitude with the ups and downs in your career, with being passed over with certain opportunities? Gian, powerful question. Tamron.
I told myself, Gian, and I can't tell you when, but I wasn't going to let bitterness weigh down my wings.
Ooh.
And I think that even when I lost my job at the Today Show, of course I saw the comments, and there were people who were more upset in some ways than me. They were ready to, take action and blow up the phones and call and complain. And I was happy to have that kind of support because it validated me. And I said, I have a place on TV. What is that place? So it did lift me up. But I found that if I succumb to the bitterness, then I can't fly. And so I tell people all the time, someone asked me about, fairness. And I said, I've never expected the business to be fair, right? I don't expect life to be fair, but I can be fair to myself. And we're not often fair to ourselves. To say I'm upset, I mourned that job because it was a dream job and I poured myself into it and I didn't like the outcome, but bitterness would not weigh down my wings. And I use that over and over again when things don't work out exactly as planned, when being upset or angry at someone would be the easier route, right? Because they deserve whatever they did to me. I want you to feel the pain, but you're in a creative space, and particularly with creatives, whatever it is. I mean, my show is like owning a small mom and pop shop in so many ways. This book, whatever it is, if you allow that bitterness, it will stick to your wings. Like when we've seen an oil spill and the birds, they can't fly. And then there you go, the rescuers with the Dawn liquid, and they're, let your friends be your Dawn liquid. Let them sit down with you and help mend you and share how sad you are. And that's fine. And have a couple of glasses of something good. And then fly away from the bitterness and leave that oil slick to the ground.
Oh my gosh, Tamron Hall taking us to church. I have goosebumps. The hair on the back of my neck is standing up. I love that. Don't let bitterness weigh down your wings. And then actually giving us takeaways and specific tools, urging us to lean on our friends and to let that be the
that's how, in so many ways, that's how we met. The group of women who all became fast friends and listening to my story while they weren't, lifelong friends. My best friend I was 4 years old. I walked into that space at the wing and I felt like I was with friends, and I felt that we were all rooting each other on without knowing each other's names, right? Without even knowing we would have this moment again in conversation. And I think that's important.
Oh, Dr. Dave chiming in saying, let your friends mend you and fly. That's from a psychiatrist, y'all. So we know she means it. Dr. Dave here in sharing wisdom as well. Mame saying this is so inspirational. Mame, agree. Murder by the Book, yes, she was so good and we were all shocked. Absolutely. Tamia saying this is so true and such an important reminder. Goosebumps. Leisha saying if we give up on things, we are giving up on ourselves, and we cannot do that. Absolutely. I want to, Gianna saying powerful. Thank you so much. And I want to say again, anyone, if you want to support Black and woman-owned business, you can support Gianna's amazing award-winning skincare business, organicbath.co, y'all. There it is. Good question here. So, Tamron, and I'm just scrolling back because I can't find it now, but I did see it. So, here it is. Okay, Tamron, we got Jordan's from Texas. You're from Texas. Jordan's reporting live from Chicago. Tamron, you lived and reported live from Chicago. We've got a lot of commonalities here. So Donna wants to know, how much of you is Jordan Manning? And I need to know now too.
I don't know what percentage, but I can tell you, I wish I was as defiant as she is when it comes to the establishment. I mean, she really sticks up for herself in a way that at that age when I was in Chicago, I did not. Now, her romantic life is a bit more interesting than mine. Let me tell you, Thomas. Listen, I don't know if I had as many steamy nights back then, but she's got her personal life might be inspired by some of my friends a bit more than me.
Well, I'm just
gonna kill me.
we won't name names, but now we know Tamron's got some steamy friends who are creeping late at night, who the doorman is letting their man of the hour up to get some late night.
They're just reading together. Come on, Sarah. It's just one date.
Oh, I'm sorry. I need to get my mind out of the gutter. Oh my goodness. Well, we are over time, y'all, but I want to thank you, Queen Hall, for gracing us here with your presence, for being so open, so present, so authentic, so real, so incredibly inspirational. I want to thank you, Mystery and Thriller fam and the Tam fam, for showing up tonight, and for being here, for turning up, and for all of your wonderful support. Murder by the Book, thank you.
Yes.
Donna's letting us know that Sisters in Crime National is very important. Continue to support the Black and Brown community with scholarships and awards. Please check them out. Absolutely. Oh, Tracy Clark saying steamy's the only way you stay warm in Chicago. Okay, now we know a little more about you, Tracy. Ooh la la. Y'all check out my interview with the incredible award-winning Tracy Clark. Her book Runner came out in July. I was thrilled to host her. Mame saying thank you. Amanda saying thank you. We're getting so many hearts up from everybody. Thank you all. Tamron, is there anything that you wish I had asked you? Anything you wish that you want to share? Any parting thoughts? What do you want people to walk away from?
Listen, I just want you to hopefully follow Jordan on this journey as she really dedicates her life to protecting others. And that speaks to what we all need right now. We've been through some trying times, and there are probably many more trying days ahead that we don't know are right around the corner. But in the spirit of this character, you've protected me, Sarah, and my heart in this hour, knowing that the subject matter is very close to the loss of my own sister, knowing, as I shared with you, how this started, where this story started with the deaths of two little girls. So I just think in the spirit of Jordan, in the spirit of so many women like yourself who have rooted for me and who have helped me keep my wings moving, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I have a 2.5-year-old son who's upstairs. You'll probably hear in a minute. And I often worry about the world, like all of us. And I'm a 51-year-old mom. And when I'm in a moment like this, I know that he's going to be okay because of women like you who are rooting for other women, who will provide a path for us to protect each other because we need it. So thank you so much.
Oh my God, Tamron Hall, you have just made me cry. You are just such an incredible human being. Oh my gosh, I've never cried on my in my interview series. Thank you all for the hearts up. As Tamron Hall has brought me to tears, you incredible, beautiful human being. Thank you so much for all the light you shine into the world. On the page, on the screen, on the stage, on the street, you are the real deal, and we are better for it. Thank you so much. Oh, y'all, thank you so much. I will see you next Monday. Tamron, hang on for just a minute. And
Okay.
y'all, I'll see you next Monday. Have a great night.
Bye, everybody.
Oh my God, Tamron.